Hi, in this video, we're going to look at EIGRP troubleshooting. Okay, so there's several commands that we can use for troubleshooting EIGRP. We're going to make sure we have neighbor relationships, look at what we expect to see and don't see in the routing table. Also make sure that in our show IP protocols that EIGRP configuration looks correct. Okay, and similar commands for EIGRP for IPv6. Okay, so several things we always want to look at when troubleshooting. First of all, we want to make sure that that our interfaces are operational. Are we able to ping our neighbors? Do we see our neighbor, the neighboring router in the neighbor table? Do the interfaces, are they configured properly? Do we have passive where we shouldn't have passive or something of that sort? Okay. Is the routing table correct? And you know, it's not just what we see in the routing table, but is there something in there we shouldn't be seeing in the routing table? Or are we seeing something we don't expect to see? So it's a lot more than just being able to configure commands and do show commands, but understanding what those commands are doing, what their effect is on our network, so you know what you should be seeing instead of what it is just showing you. Because maybe you made a configuration mistake and you think you should be, you expect to be seeing one thing and you're seeing something else. So again, this is where the understanding of the protocol, in this case EIGRP, is important. Okay. And make sure that it's taking the paths as desired. All right, so troubleshooting neighbor issues. So, you know, show IP interface brief. Okay, are the interfaces up and up? Are the IP addresses correct? Okay. Okay, can we ping our neighbor? If we can't ping our neighbor, then, you know, we're not going to be able to form any kind of neighbor adjacency with that neighbor. Okay. And there's the equivalent command for IPv6. Okay, troubleshooting neighbor issues. So show IP protocols. Okay, do all three routers show that we're running that routing protocol? And as far as EIGRP is concerned, remember that autonomous system number, the process ID, that one in this case, needs to be the same on all routers in our routing domain. Okay, show IP EIGRP interfaces is going to give us some more information about the EIGRP interfaces, including do we have any peering relationships with those routers on those interfaces, excuse me. Okay, do they have any neighbors? Okay, show IP protocols and show IPv6 protocols, okay, will tell us which networks we're routing for. These are due to the network statements or the interface, EIGRP interface commands that we did on the router. Okay, show running config. You know, this tends to be one of the commands we go to first, which isn't necessarily bad, but you might have some routers and some multi-layer switches that these can be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lines long, okay, and a lot to look through. Okay, but again, it's always a good command looking at the running config. Okay, passive interface. Okay, so remember, passive interface is those interfaces where we don't have neighbors, but we still want to include those. The EIGRP network commands, or in IPv6, the EIGRP interface commands on that router. Otherwise, it won't advertise that network. So we don't want to remove that command. We just want to make it passive. Okay, and here on actually we have our network here. That on R2, the interface with the ISP, we may not want to, you know, we're running EIGRP internally, okay, but we don't want to be sharing EIGRP updates with our ISP router, so we could make that a passive interface, along with our local area network 172.16.2.0. Okay. So the only neighbors we should have are routers R1 and R3. Yep. Okay, but this still, so this is verifying on R1 that we are, in this case, we've distributed this network into EIGRP, which you may or may not want to do. If you're running EIGRP on that, so if we are including this network statement 209.165.200.224 as a network statement, then we're including that and we're sending that as a network. But we're just not, since this is a passive interface, we're not sending the ISP any updates. Typically, this link here between R2 and the ISP, you don't really need to include that in your routing updates. Usually, if you have a static route on R2, default static route, and you propagate that either redistribute static or as a summary route into your routing domain, that should be good enough in most cases. Okay, troubleshooting a missing network statement. Okay. So if R3 cannot ping the 10.10.10.1 network, okay, R1's gigabit 0.1 interface, then what might have happened? Well, it might be that R1 isn't advertising that in EIGRP. Okay, so on R1 we do show IP protocols. And if I don't see that 10.10.10.0 network, then there's no way R3 is going to learn about it. Okay, so to correct that on R1, we include the 10.0.0.0 network. We could make it a passive interface, but we got to include it as a network statement. Now R3 can ping it. Okay, auto summarization, and this is something I would definitely not even use, but something you need to be aware of here. So, so if we do show IP route on R2, we see that it sees the 10.0.0.0 network via R1 and R3. This is one of the problems with auto summarization, okay, is that it's both R1 and R3 are summarizing the same class A 10.0.0.0/8 network. Okay. So the best thing to do is, we look at here, we notice that they're both doing auto summary. Okay, so they're both advertising the same class A network, even though they have different 10.10.10.10.0/24 and 10.20.20.0/24 subnets. Okay, and the problem is actually that we have automatic summarization enabled. And what we want to do is disable it. It causes for what's called discontiguous networks. So these two subnets both belong to the same summary. So R2, when it has a packet for either one of these subnets, can send one packet. Depends how this router is doing load balancing. I won't get into that, how it's doing either fast switching, process switching, or Cisco Express forwarding. But anyway, it might send one packet one way, one packet the other, one packet the other. In any case, you're going to have inconsistent results. So what you want to do on both routers is actually do no auto summary. What that will cause on router R2 is to get the specific subnets and not a summary. All right, and that's the basics of EIGRP troubleshooting. Just keep it simple, just step by step. And the more you work with networks and the more experience you have troubleshooting, the easiest this becomes.